In Canada, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of. But under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with the Canadian representatives. 250% for dairy products. Tariff.
Ever seen $3 billion worth of milk go down the drain? No, this isn't satire. Imagine 200 massive containers of premium American cheese, carefully packaged, shipped across borders with tight schedules, only to be blocked at the last minute. Denied entry, turned back, the headlines exploded, the dairy market shuddered, and in true form, Donald Trump went absolutely ballistic. Why did Canada reject this? What does it mean for American farmers? And how does this single trade skirmish reflect the broader tensions boiling beneath the U.S.-Canada relationship? Let's unpack the milk war. Here's what went down. In late July 2025, a major U.S. dairy shipment, primarily consisting of high-value cheese and processed milk proteins, was rejected at the Canadian border. The cargo, valued at nearly $3 billion, had been slated for large-scale importation into Canada under expectations of favorable trade allowances. But things didn't go as planned. Canada's new economic policies, enforced by Prime Minister Mark Carney, invoked long-standing protections under its supply management system. The result? Crushing tariffs, broken quotas. The shipment was slammed with a nearly 300% tariff wall. This rejection didn't just cause logistical chaos, it ignited an economic and political backlash that caught fire across both nations. Farmers, exporters, diplomats, all rattled. And in Washington, Trump. Absolutely livid. The incident unfolded between July 24th and July 28th, 2025, in the thick of tense U.S.-Canada trade renegotiations. This was just days before Trump's August 1st deadline to impose sweeping retaliatory tariffs on several Canadian goods. The rejected cargo was shipped from Wisconsin, California, and Minnesota, America's dairy strongholds. The intended entry ports included Toronto and Montreal, with distribution planned across Ontario and Quebec. The economic impact spanned across the U.S. dairy belt, affecting producers, packaging centers, and international shipping hubs. Earlier in July, U.S. dairy exporters ramped up cheese production, anticipating relaxed Canadian import conditions. Some officials had hinted at a possible breakthrough in dairy trade clauses under the USMCA framework. Exporters, hopeful, loaded roughly 200 containers of premium dairy goods and dispatched them north. But while the ships were en route, Canada's Parliament passed Bill C-202, officially reinforcing dairy protection laws. These weren't minor tweaks. The law allowed immediate enforcement of severe import tariffs if quota limits were breached. Prime Minister Mark Carney, once a central banker, now a savvy political operator, made it clear Canada wouldn't bend on dairy. When the shipments arrived, Canadian customs flagged them. By exceeding the quota thresholds, they triggered automatic punitive tariffs, some as high as 297.5%. This wasn't a miscalculation. It was a deliberate tactical play. Within hours, Trump's social media exploded with fiery rants. $3 billion of American cheese rejected by Canada. This is sabotage, pure and simple. Mark Carney just declared economic war on our farmers. Disgraceful. And just like that, what began as a cross-border dairy deal turned into a full-fledged trade drama. To understand this, we need to dig into Canada's dairy philosophy. Canada operates a supply management system first introduced in the 1970s. It does three key things: sets strict production quotas for domestic farmers, fixes prices to avoid market volatility, imposes massive tariffs on foreign imports above the set quota. Now, under the USMCA, the US was granted access to just 3.6% of Canada's dairy market, tiny compared to what exporters wanted. But here's the twist. Carney's administration argued that America had repeatedly pushed for additional access while neglecting previous side agreements. Plus, tensions were already high because of Canada's proposed digital services tax, which Trump fiercely opposed. So Carney, already under pressure to protect Canadian industries, took a hardline stance. He used Bill C-202 to legally reinforce tariff walls, sending a message: Canada won't be bullied into compromising its agricultural backbone for trade favors. Trump saw it as an ambush, but for Carney, it was a defensive maneuver, both political and economic. U.S. dairy exporters lost billions in revenue, spoiled shipments, canceled contracts. Major U.S. dairy processors like Land O'Lakes, Dairy Farmers of America, and Schreiber Foods saw international sales forecasts nosedive. In states like Wisconsin and New York, farmers took to the media, accusing the administration of failing to secure reliable trade pathways. For Trump, this was a public humiliation, a perceived diplomatic defeat at the hands of a former banker turned politician. Trump doubled down, threatening to impose 35% retaliatory tariffs on Canadian aluminum and lumber if Carney didn't reverse course. Canada's support for Carney surged domestically. Farmers across Quebec and Ontario rallied, praising the defense of local industries. Politicians across party lines defended the move as an act of sovereignty. The term milk war trended for 3 days across Canadian and U.S. Twitter X, making it the most viral trade dispute since Trump's China tariff fight in 2018. Canada's Gen 7 dairy class, introduced in 2017, was originally created to price out U.S. milk proteins. Some U.S. dairy economists have quietly praised Canada's model, noting its price stability and supply predictability, even if it frustrates exporters. Mark Carney's approval rating among rural Canadians jumped by 12% following the trade rejection, particularly in Quebec dairy zones. As of July 30, 2025, trade talks remain gridlocked. Trump has demanded that Canada revoke Bill C-202 or face retaliatory tariffs. Carney has refused, calling the law a non-negotiable domestic priority. Multiple rounds of behind-the-scenes negotiations have stalled. If no compromise is reached by August 1st, Trump is expected to raise tariffs on Canadian steel and lumber or suspend certain cross-border shipping subsidies, or possibly challenge Canada under the USMCA dispute resolution system, but Canada has its countermeasures ready. Officials have hinted they may restrict U.S. poultry and egg imports next. It's tit for tat, dairy edition. And there you have it, a full-blown dairy disaster. $3 billion in cheese, blocked at the border, farmers furious, politicians trading insults. And beneath it all, a deeper battle over sovereignty, trade fairness, and economic survival. Let's not forget, these aren't just headlines. They're livelihoods, real people, real impact. So here's what I want you to think about. Should nations prioritize global free trade or the security of local producers? Should small farmers be sacrificed for big exports? Let us know your take in the comments below. And if you're into sharp geopolitical takes, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, the dairy drama is far from over. Welcome to the Milk Wars.